45, 45, 90, or a 30, 60, 90. So that's where Sohcahtoa comes in. All right, so we're going to use Sohcahtoa. We're going to use our calculators as well. What we do on your calculator, you can also do on a scientific. Okay, so you're going to be able to use your scientifics at home. All right. If not, I'm sure in the back of your book there's a trig table with all the numbers there, and you can look it up. Okay. All right. I know it says 45, but we're not. We're gonna use Sohcahtoa instead. So I'm gonna put 45 in there for B. Okay. So that is my reference angle. All right. You're gonna need this. Come on. So technically, now I'm back to hypotenuse, opposite, adjacent. Okay. What letters on my hypotenuse right now? C, and I should probably label that with a 5, right? So I know that that's my hypotenuse. My opposite is across from the 45, so my opposite is that B. Okay? And then the A just happens to be the adjacent. Okay, so my little HOA, that's just my ratios for trig. Okay, it wants me to solve for A and for B. Okay, there are lots and lots and lots of ways to do this. Okay, so I'm going to choose to use sine because I know my opposite leg and I have my hypotenuse. So I'm going to solve for B first. Okay, so I'm going to find the sine. What's my angle measure? 45. Okay, equals, my opposite has a B on it, I'm going to use the B. Okay, what's my hypotenuse? 5. All right, I got to get B by itself. We just came out of the log chapter, right? Log of some number is just a decimal point, right? Same thing with sine. Sine of a number is just a decimal point, okay? All right, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to multiply by 5. So we got 5 sine of 45 equals B. On some standardized tests, that's what they will give you as the answer, and that's okay, all right? What we want to do is we want to find sine of 45 in your calculators, and I want to make sure we put it in your calculator's in the right mode, because sometimes the modes get all shifted because of calculus. So let's do this together. Let's go to your scratch pad, and let's just put in, do you see where it says trig? These are way fancier than the old versions. The old versions didn't have the secant, the cosecant, and the cotangent. Okay, so if you're working off of an older model, you might have to do something different. Okay? All right, so I'm going to put in my sine. Okay, and we're going to put in 45. That's not the correct answer. I didn't put the 5 in front of it yet. I just wanted to make sure that we're in the right mode. We're not in the right mode. Let's go to menu. Let's see. Where is it going to be to change the mode of the calculator? I should have looked this up before class. Matrix vector finance. Maybe it's not under menu. Now let's go back to number. No. Let's go home. Let's go to settings. Let me see if I can find. Give me a minute to find it. I know it's in here somewhere. It's not there. Settings. Let's look at document settings. Ah, there it is. Okay. So, what you're going to do, okay, is you're going to go to settings. So go to 5, and let's go to document settings. And instead of your angle measure being in radian, you need it to be in degrees. And on this next test, you're going to have to be able to convert back and forth. Okay? Because sometimes we need it in radians and sometimes we need it in degrees. We're going to learn what radians are next week. Okay? And I'm going to go ahead and click OK for degrees. And let's go to a new document and just do a new, instead of doing it on the scratch pad, let's do it in the document. So we for sure guarantee. So I'm going to hit that little calculator and that'll bring up a new document. And let's do that sine again. So it was sine of 45. Now we've got the right answer. Okay? So if your answer is not matching anything on the test, you've got your calculator in the wrong mode. A scientific calculator is always going to be in degree mode. Okay, you can change the modes, and I can show you how to do that because I know sometimes you need it in gradients and some other things for science classes. Okay, So that's what we're going to use. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to do 5 times that. So I'm going to do 5, and I'm going to go ahead and put the trig in there, sine of 45 again, and then I know I got the most accurate answer I could have. And we're going to write down to 3.536. Is that right? Okay. Everybody got that right, that same answer? Make sure you got your mode fixed. All right, and we're just going to work off of that same calculator page. It was 3.536, right? So we're going to work off that same calculator page for the whole lesson. All right? So that way we're guaranteed that it's in degree mode. All right, because this is a 45, 45, 90, what do we know about the legs? Do I have to do this process again to get this leg here? No. What do we know about them? They're the same, and that's only because it's a 45, 45, 90. That's not going to be true on the next one. Okay, so I'm just going to put B equals A equals the number. Okay, let's go ahead and look at this next one. Okay, so I'm going to label my triangle first. I'm not in 45, 45, 90 or 30, 60, 90 world anymore. So I've got these two values. I've got 32 degrees on the A and a 10 on the B. Okay. 32, what's my hypotenuse right now? What's on the hypotenuse? C. What's on the opposite? A. And what's on my adjacent? 10. The B is there too. Excuse me. Oh, it's coming, right? I told you my entire household has the flu, right? So I'm really looking forward to my 3-day weekend. My son puked on me yesterday, so I know it's coming. All right. Okay, so we got to decide what we have here. I know I've got the adjacent leg. I could go for tangent to get that opposite, couldn't I? Because tangent is opposite over adjacent, so I'm going to do tangent first, right? That's Toa, the Toa part of Sohcahtoa. So tangent of the degrees equals my variable A over my number 10. All right, what am I going to do now? So 10 times 32 equals 8. Could you put it all in your calculator at once? Okay, and go back to that same page you were on. So just use that same page. So we're going to do 10 times tangent of, it was 32, right? I'll double check, make sure I got the same thing I did before. Yes, we did. Okay. So, we got the 6.249, right? All right. I have to solve, so that was the A side. I didn't get C yet, did I? And I can't use my 45, 45, 90, or 30, 60, 90 properties like I did on the last one. So this one, I need to do another one. So what is the adjacent over the hypotenuse? What ratio is that? Cosine, that's ca, right? So I'm going to do the cosine of 32 equals my adjacent 10 over my hypotenuse C. A little bit more manipulating to do. But with our new fancy calculators, this is much easier to get in the calculator than it used to be. All right, I'm going to cross multiply, so I've got C times cosine of 32 equals 10. What am I going to do with the cosine of 32? Isn't it just a number? We're multiplying. How do I get the number to the other side? Divide it. Good. 10 divided by cosine of 30. Could you get that in your calculator? Okay, everybody try it. Use your little control divide button, right? Use that fraction button. Keep it on that same documents page. Okay? So we're going to have control divide, and it was 10 over, oh, what happened? Over the cosine of 32. 11.792. Okay, looking good. Is everybody okay on your calculators? Because you're the only one that can tell if you're doing it right now. Okay? What's wrong? How did I get it in that spot? Okay, so I multiplied across, right? Cross multiplied, so I do C times cosine of 32. Does that make sense? And now its multiplication is just a number, so I'm going to take that number and move it to the other side by dividing. Okay? All right. Let's take a look at, let's see how we're doing on time. 5. Alright, I want to get you into one of the angle of elevation, angle of depression, so let's find those. Spent too much time at the beginning. Do you have words to fill in there? Okay, quickly write. I would say line of sight must be elevated from horizontal. Don't write all of that. Just write what I underlined. Line of sight must be depressed from the horizontal. Okay? And they're labeled in the picture for you, aren't they? The way I think about it is an angle of elevation goes up, an angle of depression goes down. You just have to make sure the key is that you're coming down from a horizontal. And the other thing is, if you remember from geometry, remember alternate interior angles. I know that brings back some nightmares for some of us. But they're alternate interior angles, so they are equivalent to each other. They're congruent. Okay. We good? We got it? Okay, so let's go on. Let's try at least one of these, if not two of them. Okay? So, we've got a parasailer is attached to a boat with a rope 300 feet long. The angle of elevation from the boat to the parasailer is 48 degrees. Estimate the parasailer's height above the boat. Okay, so we need a boat. Okay? It's got to be in some water. I draw really well. I should have been an art teacher. Okay, it's in the water. Okay? And then we've got a parasailer. You got to draw the picture, right? Okay, so the parasailer is attached to the boat. Let's see, here he is. There's his parasail. It's parasailing. Okay, something I would never do. Alright, so, a parasailer is attached to a boat with a 300-foot rope, so that means that line is 300. Your goal on these is to find the triangle, okay? The angle of elevation from the boat to the parasailer. So you got to add in this imaginary horizontal distance. So from the boat to the parasailer, that angle, it says, is 48 degrees. Estimate the parasailer's height above the boat. Do you see the right triangle in there? Okay, they're looking for this right here, the height above the boat. We don't need to worry about this distance in here, thank goodness. That's a whole nother calculation. Okay, so if I'm looking at that as my reference angle, this is the opposite over the what? Hypotenuse. Is that sine, cosine, or tangent? Look at the sine up there. It's the sine, right? It's so. Opposite and hypotenuse is so. So sine of what number? It's the same thing we were doing in the last couple examples. Sine of 48 equals what over what? X over 300. Good. So I'm going to multiply 300 times the sine of 48 equals X. Okay, put that in your calculator real quick. Make sure we're getting it right. Alright, what are you guys getting? 943, and we should label it because it was in feet. And yes, I still want you to go 3 decimal places. In this case, a decimal place is going to make way more sense than a radical of some kind, right? Because you're not, or even a sine, because you're not going to go to the store and buy a rope that is 300 sine of 48 feet long, right? They don't measure them like that. All right, let's try. I want to do. Let's do this one. Another boat, I know, but it has an angle of depression, okay? So the boat is in the water level is 20 yards below a cliff. Okay, so I've got to have my boat again. Here's my boat. Okay, I need water, and water's blue, so we got to draw that in blue. Okay, blue water. Alright, and then we've got a cliff. Did you guys notice that the mountains turned green? I was noticing that yesterday. Alright, we've got our cliff. And let's see what's going on here. So, it says the water level is 20 yards below the cliff. So I know that this is 20 yards. So the top of the cliff to the water is 20 yards. The angle of depression from the cliff to the boat. Okay, so here's the tricky thing about angle of depression. It always comes down from a horizontal. So this here is the angle of depression. Do we understand that? It's not this angle in here. Does that make sense? Do you see the difference? It has to come down from the horizontal. So this is the 37 degrees in there. Okay? Technically, I have my line in the wrong spot. Hang on, I'm going to fix my line. I want it to go down to the boat edge of the water. I want it to look like that. Okay? Makes the math easier. Alright, it wants us to figure out how far the boat is from the cliff. So they want me to find that. Here's the beauty of geometry coming in here. I have alternate interior angles. Well, how big is that degree? 37. We know they're congruent. Okay, so geometry is still relevant. It's actually probably more relevant than a lot of the math we've learned this year. Okay, so what part of the triangle is this? It is a leg. Is it the opposite, hypotenuse, or adjacent? Opposite. What part is the x? Adjacent. Very good. Opposite and adjacent is which ratio? Tangent. Start writing it, right? Opposite, adjacent. What would make the finish our little acronym? TOA, right? So I know I've got the tangent of what degrees? 37 equals, what's my opposite? 20. What's my adjacent? X. Okay, we're going to cross multiply it. So I'm going to get x times tangent of 37 equals 20. Alright, what are we going to do with that tangent of 37? Divide it. So you've got 20 over the tangent of 37. And what does that end up equaling? Oh, I don't even have a number. You're going to have to tell me. .071 yards. Okay, 26 point what? 541 yards. We like that better? Okay, it's alright. You can be outvoted. It happens. Alright, everybody good with that one then? So we're all okay, comfortable putting it in our calculators. Remember on your scientifics at home, use the fraction buttons to your advantage. You've got them there, use them. Okay? Alright,